All right. Today we are super excited to jump into an episode that Kordell and I are both extremely passionate about. It's something that is hot on everyone's minds right now, just kind of given we're going through this time where Tesla is in the news almost daily. Just given the current environment we're in from a political landscape, some of the different shaking dynamics with Wall Street. So we're pretty excited to get into this. This is something that we talk about almost daily, and we could probably talk about for 24 hours on end. So we're gonna try and condense everything that we know to be true and what we kind of believe going forward is going to be the path for Tesla. So Cordell, I guess what are your thoughts here? How are you excited to talk about this?
Um, I think we both know the answer to that. I'm extremely excited to put this episode on the record, and hopefully, a few people at home find it interesting. And this is not financial advice, but if I were you, I would probably own some shares of Tesla. So,
Spot
yeah,
on.
let's get it going and let's
Yeah.
start breaking this down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess before we really get into kind of the nitty-gritty on things, um, I guess tell everyone you've got this super interesting story with Tesla. Like, what is your background? How did you first find out about Tesla, and how did you kind of get involved as being an investor?
Yeah, so my stepdad is an engineer, and his company ended up supplying Tesla with a water valve that went into the original Model S back in 2012. So Elon Musk kind of just popped up on his radar in electric vehicles as well. And he ended up buying the biography, Elon Musk by Ashley Vance, that came out in 2014 or 2015. I remember I was a sophomore in high school at the time, and I ended up just asking him, who this guy was. That was title of the book that was sitting on our counter, and he kind of gave me a brief intro to it. I was like, "Oh, can I borrow that? Can I read that?" And he's like, "Oh, sure." And I picked it up, and I was mind blown. Regardless of your political affiliation, I highly recommend picking up the book and reading it. I mean, you're just not gonna find a guy like Elon, um, you know, reading about what he went through and what it took to build his companies. It's incredible. It's inspiring. I was drawn to it. And when I had the opportunity to invest in one of his companies, I was like, yes. I didn't even know what the stock market really was at the time. I didn't understand valuations or PE ratios or any of that stuff. I read this book and I read about this guy that went through an immense amount of pain and took a bunch of risks, and he seemed to be brilliant. And one of his companies was, listed on the NASDAQ, and I can invest into it. And so I took a risk, and I put $5,000 in at the time. Um, and those shares today are now worth over six figures, kind of depending on the trading day. I know Tesla's extremely volatile right now, but yeah, that initial $5,000 investment um, is worth well into the six figures, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of my brief background on Tesla.
Yeah. No, and it's super cool because Cordell is actually the one that, put me onto Tesla. When I started investing, I had no idea what Tesla even was. I saw this stock, I saw it was extremely volatile. Right there during COVID, it was moving almost every day. And thankfully, Cordell knows more about this company than 99% of people on Earth. And I think you guys will be able to see that, the amount of knowledge that he has, the amount of time and energy he has spent researching this company and diving into every aspect of it. So, I have to tip my hat to Cordell for that. He's the one that kind of got me into Tesla. And when I started doing my own research as well, I started having my eyes kind of opened to this thing that he had been saying for so long. And, really what the true valuation case was here and what the opportunity moving forward. I think people think about, where Tesla is at today and where they're going. And so many people just look at them as this car company. That's all they are to 90% of the people on this planet. But, they have this grand master plan. They have this roadmap. I guess, Cordell, what does this roadmap kind of look like? Like, what is this master plan? Where has Tesla come from and where are they going?
Yeah, so there's a few misconceptions around Tesla. They started out back in 2008. Their first product was the Tesla Roadster, and it was a high-end luxury sports car. And the mission of that project was just to prove that electric cars could be cool. Because up until then, electric cars were compared to like basically golf carts, very slow, um, definitely not something that you would think of like as far as a sports car. Like there was no such thing as an electric sports car. And so the mission of that product was just to show the public like, hey, electric cars can be cool. So it was high end, it was expensive, it was luxury, and Tesla wanted to take the profits from that vehicle and make a more affordable sedan, which is what they ended up doing. So then they rolled out the Model S. The Model S back in 2012, I can argue is still a better vehicle than what a lot of other companies are putting out today. It set a lot of industry records, won a ton of awards, and ended up making Tesla some money. And then they took that the money from that project and rolled it into the Model 3. The Model 3 was the vehicle for the masses. It was supposed to be a $35,000 kind of compact, smaller sized SUV. And their initial goal back in like 2014, 2015, when they started talking about it, was to do 5,000 units a week. So when I invested into Tesla, the Model 3 was still being ramped. A lot of people didn't think it was going to be possible. They ended up successfully ramping that to the 5K units per week. So that's kind of a brief background on the car industry. They then rolled out the Model Y, which has been the best-selling vehicle for the past 2 years, 2023, 2024, and they're going to dominate in 2025 with the recent refresh, the Juniper project. But that's kind of the vehicle side of things. And that's why I initially invested into the company because I kind of knew electric cars are the future. I'd had the opportunity to ride in them. I did my homework on it. They were more efficient. The maintenance was lower, so it's a lower cost per mile to own. And the battery prices were set to fall. So there's something called Wright's Law, which basically means that in every doubling in production, there's a linear cost decrease. And because the unit economics and the unit volumes were so low, I knew there was going to be several doublings in production coming down the road, which means that battery prices were going to plummet, which is exactly what they've done. Back in 2008, 2009, when Tesla was producing the Roadster, a battery cost per vehicle was around $50,000 to $70,000. Today, that number is down to, I don't know, kind of depending on who you ask, $8,000 to $12,000, and it's going to continue to plummet as worldwide production of EVs and stationary storage increases. And then, so that came true. The stock ripped. It absolutely rallied as Tesla kind of proved out their model that electric cars were going to be the future. And then they kind of did a rebranding and they started talking about this thing called robotaxis. So I can let you take it there from there a little bit, Brandon, if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll definitely get into the robo taxi side of things and kind of where we're heading with that direction. Before we do that, I wanted to crack the code on a lot of misconceptions that there are, not only around Teslas, but around electric vehicles in general. Something that people always ask me, they're like, well, yeah, they have these batteries, but how long do they actually last? And they just randomly spontaneously combust and catch on fire all the time. Like, can you provide a little bit of truth to that matter?
Yeah, I'm not going to get too into it, but the headlines that you read of Tesla starting on fire all the time, it's clickbait. It is the media selling fear. Um, the truth be told, electric vehicles start on fire less than ICE vehicles or internal combustion engines. That's all we need to say on that. If you really want to get into it, if you really want to find the truth, go do your research on your own. But that is the truth on that.
Yeah, yeah,
Battery
I think that's a good
longevity,
point.
battery longevity. That's a common misconception. People are like, oh, I don't want to buy a Tesla because if the battery goes, it's 30 grand. Well, for one, there's warranties on vehicles, just like any ICE vehicle. If you go buy a Ford F-150 and when you're leaving the dealership, the engine blows up, that warranty is there to cover that. Same thing with a Tesla. The battery and drivetrain comes with an 8-year, 120,000 mile warranty. And if you make it to that point, you got a good vehicle, it's going to make it a lot longer. There's Teslas with 3, 4, 5, 600,000 miles on them. So that whole narrative is completely false as well. And if that's what you're getting in your news feed, that's what you're seeing that when you're scrolling, um, you're probably just being fed some clickbait garbage, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think like everyone has that misconception around batteries and like, oh, when a car's done, they just, take the batteries and toss it in the bottom of the ocean or toss it in a landfill. It's like, no, like lithium recycling is one of the most efficient forms of recycling. Like 99% of the lithium that is used in these batteries is able to be reused after the first battery life is up, right? That's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, and so when you actually refine or when you recycle lithium, it actually becomes a more pure form. So the lithium gets better um, per use cycle and every time that it gets recycled. Um, we don't have great recycling companies out there yet. It's not something that has been scaled up. It's still a technology that we're learning to do, but in the future, that's going to be the way. Eventually, we're going to reach a point where all the lithium that we actually need is going to be pulled out of the ground, and from there on, it's just going to be a recycling game. So it's going to be an extremely efficient process down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think, those are a couple of the common misconceptions. I'm sure people have more, but like that's just a little bit of background there. The thing that we really wanted to get into today is something that 99% of people cannot fully wrap their head around yet. And that is the future of autonomy. And when I say autonomy, specifically in this case, we're talking self-driving cars. Tesla has rolled out this new product called the Cybercab. They have had full self-driving technology for a long time now, but this new product is going to revolutionize the way that transportation occurs, not only in the United States, but around the world. I guess, Cordell, tell everyone a little bit about Cybercab. What is it, and what can we expect here moving forward from it?
Yeah, so Cybercab is Tesla's play on a fully autonomous vehicle. It's going to be the primary driver of their robotaxi business. They're going to be able to use and supplement with existing vehicles, existing Model Ys, 3s, Cybertrucks, whatever it may be. But the Cybercab is an extremely cost efficient, energy efficient vehicle that is going to move people from point to point in the most cost efficient way of transportation in the history of mankind. Um, Expectations are that they're going to get the cost per mile for rideshare down to anywhere from 12 cents to 25 cents. For some context on that, human-driven rideshare, so Uber, Lyft, taxi services, those services cost around $2 per mile. So if you call an Uber, you need to go 30 miles, you're looking at $60 for that ride on average. Um, a personal vehicle, so the vehicle that you own, drive, and operate every day, when you bring in all components of cost, depreciation, the cost of the vehicle, the financing of the vehicle, the maintenance, the fuel, you're looking at close to $1.10 per mile. So when you start talking about the cost of robotaxi, moving people at 12 to 25 cents, it's going to completely revolutionize um, the industry. I mean, it's going to impact everything. I mean, short distance flights are going to be impacted. Your local, 1 hour flights, like a Madison to O'Hare type thing. Well, you have to, I mean, I'm just going to break this down quickly. If you live 30 minutes from the airport, you have to drive to the airport. You have to check a bag, go through security. You have to get there early because, if anything goes wrong, you need that buffer of time. You need to get on the plane. You have people to your left, to your right. It's a dirty environment. Like flying is not fun by any means. You actually have to fly. You have to land. Again, find your bag, pray that nothing gets lost. And then once you get to your destination, you again don't have any transportation. Um, what about hailing a cybercab for 50 cents per mile? It's going to be on a cost per cost. It's going to be an eye for an eye when it comes to cost, and you will be in your own personal bubble. You can throw Netflix on, you can play games, you can pull the laptop out and work. So the cybercab is just going to completely revolutionize how humans move.
Yeah, 100% is. And I think that's the piece that a lot of people miss. It's like they see this new technology and they, maybe see something like a Waymo operating, or they've been in a Tesla that has FSD and they're like, oh, well, that's cool. But they don't think about like the real world use cases for it. They don't think about how much time this is going to save people. Like when you're traveling 2, 3 hours in a day for work, say, well, that's an additional 2 to 3 hours. Like if you're not driving, that you can be working, that you can be productive, that you can be doing something else. Time is the one asset that we use every day that we never get more of. So if you can create a product and a service that gives people back that asset, you just unlock this whole new level of value that the world has never seen before. And people all the time ask me like this big debate, like, okay, Tesla's full self-driving, their cybercab versus Waymo. Like, oh, Waymo's, way ahead of the race. And, there's this kind of thought that Waymo is leading the way. But frankly, I couldn't disagree more. I think Tesla has the upper hand. In my opinion, it's not even close. I guess, Kordell, what are your thoughts on that? How do you kind of, view that Waymo versus Tesla thought piece?
Yeah, so actually, Brandon knows this. I just bought a Tesla for my wife this past Saturday, yesterday. Um, and in that time, I've driven about 200 miles. Well, I haven't driven. We've put 200 miles on the car. Um, I think I've actually myself driven maybe 2 miles. So 198 miles of that has been on Tesla FSD, taking me around St. Louis, 5 lanes of traffic, through rush hours, roundabouts, confusing intersections, construction zones, and I haven't had to touch the wheel. People don't realize that. I was just telling Brandon before we kicked it off, I was sitting in the passenger seat and kind of teaching Bailey how FSD works, how, it's not unsupervised yet. You still have to monitor it. But she was kind of looking out the window to the left, looking at some buildings. And I was sitting there on my phone. And I was just like, I just had this moment where like, this is the future. Like, we're not, humans are not going to drive cars. Cars are going to do the driving and take us from point to point, and the time in that vehicle is going to be ours again. Or not again, the time in that vehicle is going to be ours. We can do whatever we want. We can watch a movie, listen to music, whatever. Like, it's here now. And to kind of talk about the differences between Waymo and Tesla, so on Tesla's supervised full self-driving, like you still have to be, watching the car currently and kind of oversighting it. They have 3.6 billion miles to date. Waymo has 37 million miles to date. Tesla has 7 million robotaxi capable vehicles on roads with the sensor suite needed to launch full self-driving unsupervised. Waymo currently has 700 cars on roads. So the reason why people think that Waymo is in the lead is simply because they were first to launch. And mind you, I live in St. Louis. That's where my car has been driving me around. Waymo cannot drive in St. Louis. And the reason for that is the Waymo team actually has to go into each individual city and geofence, meaning the car can only go in certain areas, and map out the entire city using LiDAR and HD maps. They have to know where every single object is, where every tree is, where every road barrier is, where every line is, every road line, where every stop sign is. They have to know everything. And then that car is essentially, the Waymo is a roller coaster on rails. Anytime that it goes outside those jurisdictions, it's completely lost. We've all seen those videos of like 50 Waymos in a parking lot all looking at each other. Um, Waymo does not have a generalized approach. It's very fragile, and it's not scalable. There's a tremendous cost for them to put vehicles on roads. I mean, something that we often talk about, me and Brandon, is even if the software services were one for one, if it was apples to apples, like both Waymo and Tesla's approach worked, the cost of the vehicle is a huge differentiating point. Waymo does not build vehicles; they build software. That's all they have is their software component. They buy vehicles from third-party vendors, and the current cost of a Waymo is anywhere between 100 and $150,000. The Cybercab that Tesla is building is going to be a $15 to $20,000 vehicle. So even if, like I said, that the software was the same, Tesla can produce 5 to 6 vehicles for every for every one vehicle that Waymo can produce. So when you talk about scaling and getting to multiple cities and multiple countries and getting to worldwide, Tesla's going to dominate this race. It's not even going to be close.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Elon says it all the time. Like anyone can produce a vehicle or a prototype, but manufacturing at scale is incredibly difficult. Tesla is one of maybe two electric vehicle companies in the world that has figured out how to profitably manufacture electric vehicles and do so in a way that is not only cost efficient, but it's also time efficient. They can crank these vehicles out like very few other companies can. And we talk about this a lot. As you scale production, those costs decline. And this goes back to what Cordell was talking about at the beginning. As we see more volume coming along, you have a linear decrease in cost of production on these vehicles. That's something that Waymo just doesn't have from the car side of things, right? They have some tech that you can argue, yes, it's functional in certain areas, but you drop it outside of those areas, you throw it into a new construction zone within the area that it's already pre-mapped, and it just has no clue what to do. Like a Tesla today could drive from New York City to Los Angeles because it is all vision, AI. It has the ability to learn and function like a human driver would because it does everything through vision, through cameras, right? Humans don't have lidar when they're driving. Humans have vision. So it only makes sense that a Tesla also has vision when it's going through, kind of its day-to-day process.
Yeah, so it's
Um,
vision and vision only. It's not something I touched on. So Waymo, they have LiDAR, so it's basically lasers that are bouncing off of the vehicle to all the objects around it and coming back. They also use cameras, they use HD mapping, they use high definition radar. So they have this entire sensor suite that's completely unnecessary. I mean, what do me and you use to drive cars down the road? We use our eyes. We use um, biological neural nets. Well, all Tesla is using is cameras and digital neural nets. So so we're currently on software branch 13.2.8. When Tesla swapped over from version 11 to version 12, they cut out, a lot of people don't know this, all human coding. So it used to feel very choppy. So like when you were riding in Tesla FSD and you were going down the road and it was making turns and stopping at stoplights, like it was very jerky because the car had to run through, at the time there's 350,000 lines of human written code, and it was like, okay, now I'm approaching this type of intersection, find this line of code to find what to do. Well, they deleted all of that out when they went to version 12, and then refined it when they went to version 13. So it is now all they do. So Tesla has their neural net, their brains that run the vehicle. They just feed it video of good human drivers, and then the AI learns what a human would do in any given instance. So it can approach a circumstance or a road that it's never seen before in its training, and it can have an understanding of what a human would do in this situation. Um, like you'll never see a Waymo drive outside of the lines of a road. Like they'll never go over a double yellow or anything like that. But a Tesla will. A Tesla will drive all over the road to avoid, pedestrians or maybe a basketball in the road. Like the Tesla can go over a double yellow to avoid an object and then swerve back and realize that's what a human would do. It doesn't have a line of code in it that says never cross double yellows because driving is a rule of exceptions. It's not like a game of chess or checkers where there's very strict rules for it to follow. Driving is only exceptions all the time. It's, crazy drivers around us, motorcycles, pedestrian. Like there's so much going on. Like you can't have human written code and expect a vehicle to be able to just follow that in the real world. Like it's never going to work. So I am under the impression that Tesla has the right approach. It seems to be scaling. It's working very good. The miles per critical disengagement is growing every day. The software is getting better. And I'm very bullish on the future of Tesla's FSD program.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's just the matter of fact that they have a data landslide. Surely because they have more vehicles on the road, they have cameras that are always watching, always collecting data that they can then utilize for further learning and inference and whatnot on that front with the tech. So yeah, it's one of those things that as we watch this story unfold over the next 5 years, and they're going to be rolling out their first robo taxi is what, this June? We're like 2 months away.
Yeah, and actually just this week. So back in January, they kind of set June 2025, Austin, Texas, to be the rollout of unsupervised robo-taxis, ride hailing in the city of Austin. And then just this week, several Tesla employees and Tesla itself, not Elon, Tesla employees reiterated the June date, and they got some permits and stuff this week as well. So it looks like we are green lights, go ahead in June in Austin.
Yeah, it's awesome. That it's so exciting because I think as we start to see this kind of take fold, the biggest question that everyone's going to have, like, what is the safety level? What is the level of, basically government intervention, regulation, and that sort of thing as we watch this kind of develop across the country, not just in Austin, not just in some of these larger cities, but we'll see this happen. And I think once we have like confirmation and once we start seeing more data points about safety and whatnot, like it will unfold incredibly fast. And when people look at this, the future of this, it's just hard for them to still wrap their head around in terms of what this actually means, not only for, safety and how people go about day-to-day transportation, but also what it means for the value of an economy and what it means for the value of Tesla as a company. Um, I guess when we look at what this specific tech could do for Tesla's value, for their revenue, for their income, what are some of the expectations around that piece of the story?
Yeah, so I think robotaxi, unsupervised FSD, is a 10 to 15x from here in stock price. So the listener at home, again, not financial advice here, but that's why I've been screaming this from the mountaintops for a long time. Is if you buy a share of Tesla today at $250 in the next 3 to 5 years, I'm guessing that that same share is going to be worth $2,500 to $3,000. That's my expectation. Um, I know you got Steven's valuation model, a guy we've been following for a long time. He has us all valued out. I mean, stock prices, it's not something that just comes to be. It's not based on news headlines. It's based on the prediction of future cash flows. And when you actually break the numbers out of, 10 to 15,000 robo taxis in every US major city, and then you start looking at Europe and China, um, Tesla, that's the thing too. This is software. So Tesla already has all these vehicles on roads. Um, Software, SaaS model, software as a service, it's extremely profitable. It's extremely high margin, and Tesla is going to make a ton of cash. And that's why it's important for you as the listener at home to understand this is when Tesla makes a ton of cash, the stock price is going to go up. If you own shares, that's good for you. In its most simplistic form, that's why I'm preaching this.
Mhm. 100%. And that's a big piece of the reason, at least like when I started investing in Tesla, I didn't care that they were a car company, right? I mean, I saw like, yeah, that's what's going to allow them to take that next step. And that by itself is a very good business. Like they are doing extremely well by just manufacturing cars. But this whole AI vision and this whole, future tech vision with robotaxi and humanoid, we're going to talk about that. Like that unlocks this whole other level of value that doesn't exist anywhere today.
Yeah, so there's the financial piece, and then there's a couple of really other important things that I want to spend time on. Brandon, you as a human being, do you trust yourself to, or do you trust society enough to ride a bicycle on public roadways right now? Like, do you
No
feel good
way.
about that? No,
No.
absolutely not. I personally refuse to do it. I will not ride a bike on a public road, because I mean, especially when you're in a Tesla and you can actually look around. I mean, you don't have to be in a Tesla. You can be in any other vehicle. Drive down the road, especially in towns, in cities, and look at other people in their vehicles. What is the percent of drivers that are on their phones, looking down, not paying attention to the roadways? It's tremendous, especially when you look at the younger generation, 16 to 25-year-olds who are completely hooked to that device. They're always on their phones. They're looking at those notifications. They're texting. Those humans are not paying attention to the roadway. It is not safe. A cyber cab, a robo taxi, it doesn't even have to be a Tesla. Waymos, the likelihood that you as a cyclist get hit by a Waymo versus a human driver, even today, it's magnitudes of orders of difference. Like it's not going to happen versus when it comes to an autonomous vehicle. Um, Autonomous vehicles never drive under the influence. They're never drunk. They never work too late and get tired and fall asleep behind the wheel. Um, that's honestly might be the coolest piece. There's currently 40,000 deaths per year in the US in passenger vehicles. And over the coming decades, as less and less humans are driving vehicles, I think that number is going to plummet, and that's pretty cool.
100%. Yeah, that is the probably the most cool piece of this entire story is just the fact that the safety and the stability, the consistency that we're going to experience from
Yeah.
this is
Do you
something
want,
that we haven't seen before.
would you want to send your 13-year-old daughter in the back of an Uber? Like,
No way.
there's the average Uber driver, but then there's also the drivers at the tail ends that are a little bit sketchy. You know, do you want your Uber to smell like Indian food? No, like cybercabs are going to be so cool. You're going to get into it. You're going to have a profile on your phone, and it's going to have all of your preferences, your temperature preferences, your music preferences. Um, if you, it's going to be linked to your Netflix account. If you're watching a series, you're just going to get into your cyber cab. It's going to show up. The doors are going to open. You're going to get in, and that's going to be your personal individualized transport bubble. Like it's so cool. It's so much better than any service that exists today. And I'm so optimistic about the future because of products like this. It's cool.
Totally agree. It's going to be incredibly cool to see. And I think that's a kind of a good segue into, the next big talking point on Tesla specifically, and that is their humanoid robot, their Tesla bot. This is something that they've been working on here now, and they've been making like incredibly rapid progress. And it's just kind of a really good notion. Tesla as a whole, they employ the most intelligent people on this planet. A lot of the same people that have developed this full self-driving and developed the tech of this, basically embodied AI in the form of a vehicle. A robo taxi is a robot on wheels. So it only naturally makes sense as they take this next step into trying to make life more efficient, make life better, that they develop some sort of a humanoid robot that is in the form of a human that can do human-based roles. What is it about humanoid that has you most excited? And can you tell people like what is humanoid? What should we be expecting from it here?
Yeah, so this is it's an interesting topic. Um, there's good things you can talk about it, and there's bad things you can talk about it. It's going to completely dominate the landscape of news, of technology, of everything for the next decade. I think we're probably 12 to 18 months away from it being on like everyone's radar when you even talk about the average human being. Um, Something that me and Brandon briefly just touched on before getting the camera rolling here was this is the first time that every single one of the biggest companies in the world is pursuing the exact same product. For for those of you at home that don't know this, Facebook, Meta, they are getting involved in humanoids. Google getting involved in humanoids. OpenAI getting involved in humanoids. Tesla, um, Microsoft, and then a handful of startups as well. Companies like Aptronic, companies like Figure, and they are all aggressively pursuing this technology and investing a ton of money into this. Um, I think they all understand that this is going to be the biggest product of all kind in human history, and you can't really afford to be on the sidelines for this. Like you got to get involved because it's going to change the entire landscape of our civilization.
Yeah, when we talk about human robots, I think what people don't totally realize is these robots can work almost 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't get sick. They don't get tired. They don't take lunch breaks. They don't take bathroom breaks. They don't take vacations. Like the global economy does not know its own limits when we have robots that can like produce goods and services on end without any sort of limitations. That's like the coolest thing about this is, this whole like thought of abundance and just, having unlimited ability to produce is something that we can't even begin to understand. Like there's going to be industries that are 100% disrupted by this. Labor is going to be completely disrupted, but there's going to be new industries that pop up because of it, and that always happens with any sort of brand new, innovative, disruptive technology. Um, but the humanoid robot as a whole, it's something that we as humans, we don't even know how to think about like what this means for the future. We don't know how this kind of plays out in terms of creating abundance and how the basically the world looks at labor as a whole. Um, I guess, did you have anything else you wanted to add, like specifically on
Yeah,
humanoid?
I mean, people don't understand how fast this is going to scale. Tesla, I mean, I'll talk about Tesla just because that's where I have most of my information. That's where I know the most about. They plan on building 5,000 this year and 50,000 next year. Think about what a room of 50,000 robots looks like. That's the end of 2026. We're 19, what, 20, 21 months away from that. We're going to go to sleep and wake up and it's going to be 2027. Like it's going to go fast. It's going to be here. Um, they don't understand the capabilities. I mean, Optimus can already catch balls out of the air if you toss it a ball, it can catch it. It can fold close. Um,
Crack
it
an egg.
can crack. It can hold an egg. It understands pressure. It can understand what the object is and the pressure needed to hold that. It can walk down a hill, slip, and recapture itself. Regain its stability. Um, it's doing useful work in Tesla's factories now. It's moving batteries. Um, it's going to be a disruptor. We don't really know what it looks like. Um, to bring this back to why it's valuable again for the listener, like I said, I think Robotaxi and FSD probably unlocks a 10 to 15x in Tesla stock price. Humanoids, we have no idea. I mean, I don't even currently give it any value because the numbers are so ridiculous and the timelines are, kind of unknown at this point. But when you have every single one of the mega caps in the world pursuing this technology, you should probably take notice of it. When is it going to start affecting earnings reports? Like I said, we don't know, but it's coming. And that's what's cool about Tesla. They have a super profitable EV and energy business that's giving them the cash to pursue these huge AI projects. FSD is done, like I said. I mean, for those of you at home, you can actually go to a Tesla dealership and take a test drive in any vehicle. You can have the vehicle for a half hour. They all have FSD on them, and you can see it for your own eyes. It's magic. I can't even explain it. You're driving through a city, cars all around you, through traffic lights, roundabouts, construct. It doesn't, and you don't have to touch the wheel. It's magical and it's amazing, and you don't understand like how revolutionary this product is and how revolutionary it's going to be until you experience it yourself. So go do it, experience it. It's crazy. And none of this technology is currently baked into the stock price. You're buying it at a discount. This is done. FSD is done. I'm saying it now. Year end, we're going to be in multiple cities. The stock is going to rip. Again, not financial advice. Um, that's my take on it. And so for the price of you can buy an overpriced car company currently that is going to become the largest AI company on earth. So that's what Tesla is right now from a financial piece.
Yeah, these other opportunities have the potential to make Tesla's current business look like a freaking rounding error.
No,
And we've
literally.
we've yeah, we've had other people that have said that. Elon has said, like, he sees a clear pathway for Tesla to be worth more than the two largest companies in the world combined within 10
And
years. Right.
I mean that's old news as well, Brandon. I mean, a few months ago he stated he sees a pathway. It's going to take a ton of work and exceptional execution, but he sees a pathway to 30 trillion. Is what he said on the previous earnings call. We're currently at about a $700 billion market cap, so that's roughly a 35x from here. You put $1 in, you'll have 35. Again, it's projections, it's his best estimates. Um, Elon has been wrong on timelines before. Take all that into account. Like I said, go get into a Tesla, experience the technology now, and you'll realize, why me and Brandon are so excited about this.
Yeah. And I would encourage every single person to go do that because it's something that most people haven't done. It's something that a lot of people on Wall Street haven't done, and they're the ones that are, influencing stock prices and, moving money around in and out of funds to basically influence these things. So if you can, have that background and have that knowledge ahead of them, it's going to serve you well over the long term in most cases. So, like Kordell said, a lot of this stuff is projections. It is going to take a lot of execution. It's going to take a lot of work, and things have to fall into place in the right manner. But if there's any group or any team that can do it, we're very confident that it's this team. And the amount of quality individuals that work there is really second to none. So, I think if there's any takeaways from this, it's do your own research, put in the time to actually go and pursue these things because there is this revolutionary technology that we have never seen before that is on the forefront and it's here. Like this isn't happening 5 years from now. It is here right now and it's only going to continue to unfold at a much faster rate.
Agreed. Yeah, and to kind of wrap up a little bit, obviously this episode was specified to Tesla, but if I had to make any advice to someone that's interested in getting into the markets, it's, find the products that you love. Um, I talked about this with my wife, Bailey. She got her bonus a couple summers ago from work and she wanted to put it into the markets. And she's like, well, what company should I invest in? And my advice to her was, what companies do you love? For instance, Lululemon. She loves Lululemon. I think it's a little bit late in the game. I'm not saying buy Lululemon stock, but like that's a product she loved. She loved going to the stores. She loved the customer experience. She loved the quality of the clothing. She loved if you get a hole in their clothing, you can take it back and they give you new stuff. Like they create a great customer experience, and it's a really good, in her opinion, brand that she is passionate about. I'm like, you got to find companies like that you have a personal connection to and that you have information on that the rest of the world does not. You want to find like I found Tesla early in the game. It was 2019 before they had become Tesla. So think about the companies that and the products that you use every single day, and then do some research on them. Whether it's a car or a phone or a new clothing company or a new music software company, like look into them, see who owns them, see if they're publicly traded, see where it's at, see where they're at in their business cycle, and start thinking about those products from that perspective and maybe the value that might be unlocked if they are a great company.
A lot of times it's paying attention to stuff in your day-to-day surroundings. I mean, for some people, it's hard to kind of look at it from that manner, but Cordell and I talk about it all the time. Like we're out and about, we can be sitting at a restaurant, we're like, "Hey, did you ever think about this?" Or like, what is this company?" Because our brains are just wired to be constantly looking and watching for that stuff. But if you actually like tell yourself, "Okay, I need to look and watch for some of these things in my surroundings," you start to pick up on stuff a lot more. Like, oh, I noticed everyone is wearing this new brand of shoe, stuff like that.
Yeah, so I mean, another company that I actually just invested into last week. I bought 100 shares of Robinhood. I'm a little late in the game. I should have been in earlier. It's a company I've been telling Brandon about for years. Um, and I actually persuaded him to download an account for some of the benefits that Robinhood offers. And it's my own personal mistake. I could have got in at $7 or $8 a share. It's now trading at 40. So I missed like a 5 or a 6x. I still think that there's possibly a 10 to 15x in the bag for Robinhood. It's the UI, the user interface it's so accessible, it's so easy to use. It feels so good in your hands. They have a CEO who is the founder, so I love owner operators. They have a fantastic team, and they're rolling out really great products. They got a credit card out now that is fantastic. It's 3% cash back on everything, and it's super easy to use and whatnot. They just announced next week they're getting into banking, so they want to get into mortgages, car loans, stuff like that. And again, it's such a better product than like traditional banking. Robinhood banking is going to be incredible. And that's a product that I love. I've been on it for a long time, and so that's what I did. I bought some shares. I'm getting involved with it because I believe in it. I've done, also, I mean, for those of you that don't know this, you can go to any company, any publicly traded company that you're interested in, type in, for instance, Tesla, and then investor relations afterwards. And you can actually pull up all the public information on that company, their balance sheets, their income statements, um, their earnings calls. You can listen to the management team asking questions or answering questions from analysts and, kind of get a feel for who's running this company. And that's something that I do. I listened to 4 or 5 of the previous earning calls of Robinhood. Again, love the product, and so I'm putting my dollars behind it, and I'm making an investment.
Totally. And I couldn't encourage people more to take that same approach and, make sure you're, doing all your due diligence, but absolutely put your money in companies that you believe in for the long term. And when I say long term, I don't mean 1 to 2 months. I don't mean 1 to 2 years. Like that's what Wall Street is looking at. I'm talking 3 years, 5 years. The companies that we invest in, I don't care what they do within the next 2 months or the next year. If they go down, I hope they go down because we'll buy more and we'll keep buying and we'll keep buying unless we feel something has fundamentally changed with the business model.
Correct. Imagine it's an old Warren Buffett thing, but he's like, imagine if there's a realtor outside of your house and just screamed out prices every single day. 200,000, 180,000, 250,000. That's essentially what analysts do with stock prices. It's based on the news. It's based off of whatever's going on that day. Tesla's currently super down because delivery numbers are going to be down. And the reason delivery numbers are going to be down is because they're retooling several factories so that they can produce their new refreshed Model Y. But because Wall Street then learns that numbers are going to be down, they're like, oh my God, other people are going to sell the stock because delivery numbers are down. So we also have to sell it so we don't take that short-term loss and then we'll buy back in later versus investors like me and Brandon. We buy the stock and then we hold it through all of that. If it does go down, we buy more. Um, you don't play that short-term game of trying to get in and time things. It doesn't work. You got to pay taxes on top of it sometimes. It's a mess. If you buy stock in good companies and you hold it for a long time, good things happen.
Yep. And if anybody has questions on this, I think you can tell, Cordell and I could talk about this stuff for hours on end. So don't be afraid to hit us up if you got questions or if you've got things you want to touch base on or a development that you're seeing in a different company. We're always open to talking about that stuff and excited to do it. And I think this is going to be this is an episode that we were really looking forward to. Something we could come on and put this on the record one to look back on and hopefully 5, 10 years and say, hey, this is where we thought the future was going, and now this is where it's at. So yeah, this is something that we've been waiting to do for a long time. We're super excited. I'm pumped to ride in Tesla in Cordell's new Tesla. Always love a good ride in a Tesla. So
Right? Yeah.
yeah,
I guess I'll publicly state it too. I mean, over 90% of my net worth is wrapped up in Tesla stock. Um, I see the company being worth $2,500 to 3,000 a share within the next 5 years here. And not financial advice. These are my own views where I think it's going. And I want that on record. And I want to be held accountable to whether that happens or not. And like Brandon said, if you have questions, if you disagree, if you want to get involved in the markets, you don't know where to start, reach out to us. Or, if there's a company that you love that you think kind of fits this mold of what we're talking about, let us know because we want to research it ourselves and, possibly invest because we're always looking for opportunities. We love this stuff. We love talking shop. So do not be afraid to hit us up. We'd love to have a conversation with anybody.
yeah, absolutely. No, I think that pretty well kind of takes care of everything we wanted to touch on today. We're super excited for the next guests we've got coming up. We've got some really awesome stuff in the real estate side of things, kind of in the pipeline. And in the meantime, if you guys have questions, reach out. Make sure you subscribe, leave a 5-star review. And most importantly, share it with a friend, share it with someone that you think is going to get value out of this. Until next time, take care, guys. We'll see ya.